Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to the No Name Music Cast. My name's Tim, and this is
Joy.
And we are starting the show with big music news. This is probably the big story of the year. I don't think it gets much bigger than this, in all honesty. So I'm just going to come straight out with it. I was really surprised to hear this, and I'm sure the whole music industry at large is shocked. It's ripped to its core by this news.
I don't know what's happening. I was waiting for the news because I really don't know what's happening.
Okay, Justin Bieber has sold his entire music catalog, much like a lot of these other rock titans. He joins them by selling his entire music catalog, the rights.
It's amazing that this is what Tim chose to tell you guys about when we get into the episode topic. It's right on brand, Tim.
Yeah, so he's sold it to a company called Hypnosis. Hypnosis. I think, how do you pronounce it? Hypgno.
I'd say hypnosis like you did.
Hypnosis. Anyway, they're a UK-based music investment company. And other artists like Sting, Bob Dylan, I think Shakira has done it. But apparently Justin Bieber is the youngest artist to do it so far.
He seems kind of young and still fresh in his career to do that. No offense. I mean, it just seems to be something you do when you get older.
Yeah, I mean, he's 28 years old. I mean, reportedly the sale is $200 million. Now, either Justin Bieber knows that his fame is fading and he can't amass that same amount of money, or he knows that his future music and future endeavors are going to be worth so much more, so he's sort of cashing in with that while he can. I don't know. What do you think?
He has some type of, and I don't know he has a health issue going on. I wonder if that contributes. I need to, hold on, I'm giving it a Goog, everybody. He has facial paralysis.
Oh.
So I'm wondering if maybe, and this is just, I've not spoken to Justin Bieber, as you would imagine. You know, me and him talk all the time. Tim knows this, of course.
Right,
but
I mean, obviously.
Maybe he's worried about that affecting his ability to perform in the future.
I mean, it's possible, in which case he's cashing in $200 million. I mean, that's more money than you and I will ever see in our lifetimes. And I mean, you just set yourself
Thanks
up for life.
Thanks for reminding me of that.
Well, it's true.
Feels like a little shot in the face there. But yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it's smart on his behalf, really, if that's what he thinks it is.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it's like all of his prior work has been sold off. So I don't know. It's like it's the copyrights, the songwriter ownership, the master recordings, and everything.
Huh. Yeah, that would be my idea, but I don't know for sure. Like I said, I haven't called him today. I'll talk to him later.
Yeah, and it even covers his hits Peaches and Beauty and the Beat, two songs I've never heard of in my life.
I like how Tim said that, like, oh yeah. To be honest, the only thing I think of when I think of Justin Bieber is that stupid baby, baby, baby. Oh, that's the only thing I think of.
Yeah, I can't say as I've ever heard that one either.
It was just a pop hit that was everywhere for like 5 minutes on like TV. You know what I mean? And even to the point that people were kind of making fun of it. So that's what comes to mind every time I think Justin Bieber.
Well, there you go. And in other music news, because we always start the show with some news or some kind of quiz that Joy asked me, but I'm going with the music news section this week. And there's a big thing in the news today about Taylor Swift and Ticketmaster. Are you aware of this debacle?
I am. I saw a little bit about the headlines.
Yeah, so apparently there's a Senate hearing about it because the Senate is concerned that Ticketmaster is a powerful monopoly, which is how they described it. And I would probably agree with that because, I mean, they're the only game in town with tickets. And the worst thing about them is that you have to buy your tickets from them and then they sell out in 2 seconds. And then they own a company that will sell you scalped tickets at ridiculously inflated prices. That's just absurd.
It's literally like, couldn't get tickets through us directly. So go through our partner over here and they'll quadruple the price. But also the thing that I can't stand about them, the thing that I have yet to figure out, and this is just me, I will go to buy tickets. I will put said tickets in the carts. It will ask me, do you want a parking pass? And, all these things. I'm like, no, it's fine. I get to the end. the price of what the ticket was has now quadrupled. And I don't know why. There are so many fees associated with buying tickets through them.
Yeah, why don't you make the price inclusive of everything? And this is like hotels, resort fees, and all this nonsense. Just give me the price.
I need to know how much money is going to come out of my bank account to see if I can do this. Okay. That's all I need to know. But like, it'll be like, okay, so you want Weird Al tickets. There you go. $90 ticket. Okay. $180. Let's make it happen. Click, right? And then you start going through and they're like, what about this? I'm like, no, I probably don't need that. Well, what about insurance? Yeah, I probably need that. Then I get to the end and it's like $375. I'm like, what the?
Yeah, because it's like
from?
Worst one is convenience fee. I mean, who's this convenient fee? Who's it convenient for? It's not convenient for me.
Exactly. And you're like, and there'll be like a little question mark and you click it. And it's just like, this is just a convenience fee. Like that narrows it down in any way. Okay, cool, I guess. That's what drives me insane about them. On top of the whole monopoly, and we're stuck buying everything from them because we don't have a choice. It's the fact that like nothing is ever priced right. And so, but I would agree that they have a monopoly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if anything will come of this because I'm sure that they're greasing the wheels of politics, so nothing will probably ever come of it. But I mean,
I'm sure.
It's I don't know. It just feels bad. I know a number of years ago there was a lot of bands who were against Ticketmaster. I think Pearl Jam and Neil Young and a few others, and they said that they weren't going to deal with them and they weren't going to play venues that were affiliated with them. But I don't know. I mean, as we've discussed many times, concert tickets have got absurdly expensive, like ridiculously absurdly expensive. Whereas like previously you think, oh, I'll go and see a band. You're not really sure about them. Maybe you have a good time and you go out. Now it's such a massive investment that you only go very selectively because it's so expensive.
Well, and then like me and Tim have talked about, we live in a location where we typically have to travel to get to a good concert anyway. So we have to take those costs into effect too to even get us there.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I was spoiled living in London. I mean, you could see any band you wanted as they come through and you hop on the tube or whatever and you're right there. But like here you have to drive to Greensboro or maybe Richmond or Raleigh or something like
that.
Charlotte.
Yeah. And we're used to it, but it does add into the cost. But anyway, there's me and Tim's TED Talk for the day.
there we go. Well, I tell you what, before we get into your topic, Joy, because I know you're very excited about your topic this week, I'm bringing back for this week CD of the Week.
Yay! I kind of wondered.
Okay, so this week's CD of the Week is the self-titled album by the band Roachford. Are you familiar with Roachford?
No.
So the gentleman who used to sing for Roachford, I think he's still out there getting it done, is Andrew Roachford. And this was his band, Roachford. Now, their track that you would probably know is the track Cuddly Toy.
It doesn't particularly ring a bell, but I'll give it a Google when we get off to be official. Cuddly Toy. Is it about cuddly toys?
No.
It's a very deceptive title. I feel like I probably know it. I just don't know it by name.
It is a stone cold rock classic, is Cuddly Toy. Well, pop rock classic. I mean, this is from 1980. Joy, I'm going to take my glasses off to read things. What's going on these days? I can't even read the text. It's so small. 1988 it's from. And I remember when it came out, and it's one of those really good, feel-good pop rock songs. And of course, it was immortalized in the Alan Partridge film. At the very beginning, he's driving along in his Kia and he's singing along to Cuddly Toy very comedically.
Of course. I mean, I should have predicted that was coming. I mean, it's obvious.
But that wasn't the reason I picked it. This is actually a really good album. I bought this on vinyl when it first came out, and I bought my vinyl copy in Woolworths and Hounslow, unsurprisingly. And I always remember the quality of the cardboard of my original vinyl pressing was very good. And it was sort of embossed, and I was very impressed with that.
I mean, isn't it funny when things like that happen? Like you get something and you're like, the quality is so much better than any of the other ones I've got. And you don't know why it matters, but it does.
Yeah, I know you'd pull out and you'd feel like a luxury item because it was the way that it was printed and the quality of the cardboard. So congratulations, Andrew Roachford. Your 1988 pressing of your self-titled album, as sold in Woolworths, was of incredibly good quality.
And if you're listening, we'd love for you to write in.
But I mean, I'd say there's some other great tracks on here. Give It Up's a great track. Family Man is a great track. Of course, Cuddly Toy. Kathleen is another good track. I would recommend checking this out. I mean, a lot of people would only know Cuddly Toy, and it appears on like Greatest Hits of the 80s, Cuddly Toy. And it was, of course, being immortalized by Alan Partridge in the Alan Partridge film. But that's my recommendation for you. That is the CD of the week.
Yay. I wrote down Cuddly Toy, Tim. It's officially in the notes.
There you go. You should check it out when this episode wraps. Okay, so this week, as I said, is Joy's topic. She's very excited. She'd already been sending me YouTube videos and stuff. So, Joy, it's over to you.
Well, the irony of him bringing up Justin Bieber is kind of funny because I've been playing Just Dance a lot, and there's a whole thing now with Korean boy bands, right, Tim? Have you seen the whole, I know you're not following it, but there's a big trend now where Korean boy bands are huge. They're all over Just Dance. I don't know a thing about Korean boy bands, and that is not the topic, but the episode is just boy bands, history of boy bands. And so when he brought up pop music, Justin Bieber, it made me laugh because obviously this is going to be loosely about pop music.
Well, there you go. Yeah, you were saying about Korean boy bands. If you go in FYE in Roanoke, they have a reasonably sized physical media section, but there is one entire aisle which is just K-pop.
Well, and K-pop's a really interesting medium for me because I know one band, and that's BTS. But there's female K-pop groups, too, that are super famous. There's one that came out, I know one of them doing Blackpink. Don't know a song they sing. I've just seen that name. And they are very interesting. Like, there's like a whole industry behind them. They kind of do the whole... not Britney Spears, I'm sorry, Spice Girls thing where they live in a house together and they get to know each other. But apparently they're very particular about how they make them to be what they want them to be is a very interesting, almost kind of methodical process, the producers and everything. So there's a whole industry behind that probably equates to where you see all the stuff at like FYE and stuff. And you guys have never Googled that. It's very interesting. I'm not here to judge. It's just a very kind of interesting thing you put together. So that is what sparked my interest. And of course, I was a 90s baby when my personal opinion, the best pop bands of all time were around. And specifically boy bands. I sent Tim a few. One of his favorite bands that he loves came up whenever I was doing some research. So I wanted him to be refreshed for 2 songs that I found that I didn't know existed. And I probably could have went to my grave not knowing this. But that's neither here nor there. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a history on boy bands, just kind of what they're defined as, where they come from. And then I picked the top boy bands of since the 60s and picked some songs and we're just going to discuss them. And some interesting quotes and different things I read. Now, basically, a boy band is loosely defined as a vocal group consisting of young male singers, usually in their teenage years, early 20s at the time of formation. Generally, boy bands perform love songs marketed to girls, lovers, younger people, that kind of thing. Many boy bands dance as well as sing, usually giving highly choreographed numbers. And then South Korean boy bands, speaking of that, also have designated rappers.
Okay.
So that was an interesting fact. Anyway, so such bands usually evolve out of the church or gospel or by talent managers. Thank you, Simon Cowell, The World, that kind of stuff. But vocal groups, most boy bands do not play musical instruments, though there is one group that I made an exception for. And they're similar to their counterparts known as girl groups. The popularity of boy bands peaked 3 times, the 60s to the 70s. The second time during the 80s to the 90s, and then the early 2000s. So that is kind of the different time periods we're going to be talking about. Now, I wanted to ask Tim this question because it's controversial, and I want to hear what he has to say. So, they said typically they don't play instruments, but there is one rock band that there's been a history of people kind of calling them a boy band. Apparently the Beatles. So the first or original boy band before any of them had the term is what some people call the Beatles, though I think of them as a rock band. Here's an example of them referring to them as a boy band. Yeah, they're from Liverpool, Tim. The Liverpool quartet, known as the Beatles, were not only the quintessential rock band, but many consider John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr to be the original boy band, especially in the 1960s when young girls would scream at the top of their lungs and pass out upon sight. And that was from the Hollywood Reporter. But then I liked what Ringo said. Ringo said, if that were true, then wouldn't any band with men or boys in general be a boy band? He's like, you have to have some type of, there's no distinct, that would be every band ever.
That's true. I mean, in the contemporary definition of a boy band, I don't think the Beatles are a boy band, certainly because they had not a huge long career, but they had a longer career. And they were really towards the end writing very, amazing music, genre-defining music that sort of was the soundtrack of a generation. Typically, a boy band is throwaway pop for the most part. However, when they began, they were four attractive young men. They were dressed incredibly well, and they had a look that was very defined for their look. And they were the first of this thing where they were packaged as four attractive people. They're wearing their suits. I mean, they're not doing, dance moves and all that kind of stuff. And they were all playing their instruments and writing their music. But if you look, sort of, they were at the beginning of this idea. There were thousands of other bands before the Beatles that contained four men.
Yeah.
But having that kind of very clear look, the Cuban heels, the hairstyles, all the same. Yeah, it was marketed as a thing.
Well, and I do think they were right. And if you go back to what the loose definition, what I mean, was, it talked about a lot of times the music is marketed towards the younger generation, female specifically. And what were the Fab Four known for? They were one of the very first bands that literally, like they were saying, people would pass out specifically females would pass out when they saw them.
Sure.
Like, there was a reason. So, but they also made a point, and Ringo, I think, took this very personal. He said, we also exercise creative control over our own music, played our own instruments, and we're not manufactured by a label.
No, but Brian Epstein defined their look and the uniforms and all that kind of stuff. So
let Ringo have it, Tim. He doesn't want to be a boy band.
What is all about peace and love. Peace and love.
So anyway, I just thought that was controversial. Now, one thing, though, was interesting is the actual first, if you look at it, so kind of like, the boy bands kind of formed from that barbershop quartet kind of thing back in the day. And, 4-part harmonies. That's what they're known for. They're 4-part harmonies. Barbershop quartets always 4-part harmonies. They say if you got technical, the first and the most early trace of a boy band was a band from an African-American vocal group called the Ink Spots. They were never called that because that term didn't exist, but they said that is probably where boy bands started. And that was in the 1950s. People really didn't start referring to boy bands until about the 1970s is what I'm reading. Maybe early 60s when the first one came out. And the first two bands we're going to talk about, I've just got some songs, are from the 60s and the 70s. And they're two bands I'm sure you're very familiar with. The first one is the Jackson 5.
Ah, there you go. Yeah, because I suppose the Jackson 5 will be considered a boy band. I mean, Michael Jackson wasn't really a instrument player, I suppose. I think he played a bit of guitar and played a bit of keys, but he wasn't known as somebody who played an instrument. But certainly the rest of the Jackson 5 played guitar, bass, drums, that kind of stuff.
I think the key is, and that's what I say, it's kind of loosely they don't play instruments, but if you look at like the way they did the choreographing and the dancing and things like that, I mean, technically even the Temptations, if they were a little younger, probably could have been defined as a boy band. But I would say for me, the first real band that I know of that I think of choreographed, think about the outfits, Tim, the big outfits they were matching, big on the matchy-matchy. And when they performed live, they tend to do some type of dance together. And their music was pop. So that's what I said. So I picked a song that is one of my favorites. It's Blame It on the Boogie.
Yeah, no, that is an absolutely fantastic song. And you say about the synchronized dance moves and everything. If you ever looked up any footage of Soul Train?
Yeah.
And I've seen them perform on Soul Train, and it is all about the performance. The audience is having an absolutely fantastic time. They're dancing along, and it's fabulous. But like you see, like the Jackson 5 on there, and they are doing all the synchronized moves. They have all the cool clothes. It is, again, it's the package.
So my favorite one of that, if you've ever go back and watch this, is when they do Dancing Machine, and that's on Soul Train. They're wearing brown kind of outfits. I distinctly remember the brown outfits. And in Dancing Machine, he tends to do a robotic type thing, and it's super cool. If you've never seen that one, that's a great example of what me and Tim are talking about. And he does it so well because Michael could dance. That's like, one of his big things. So one interesting fact about this song that I did not know. So Blame It on the Boogie was released in 1978 by English songwriter and singer Mick Jackson.
Okay.
What are the chances, right? Apparently, so here's how the story goes. The song was co-authored by Mick, his brother David, and somebody named Elmer Kahn. I don't know who that is. Jackson actually recorded his version, this Mick Jackson, not Michael Jackson. Mick recorded his version first. The Jacksons management team picked the song up, and it was actually offered to them from his publisher. Mick's publisher offered it to the Jacksons without him knowing. And so by doing that, it delayed the pressing of his version to come out. But ironically, they both ended up coming out in the same week. Eventually, Mick was hailed as saying their version was better, far superior, and that's why you hear it more.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I've never heard Mick Jackson's version of it. Like Mick Jackson versus Michael Jackson. I mean, is that a thing?
That's what he even made a comment. He's like, I don't know why our names happen to be so close. But anyway, so I just thought that was cool. I kind of want to go down a rabbit hole and go find that version because I've never heard of it. But it would be really bad, Tim, if you had to go up against the Jacksons of all people, or Jackson 5, however you want to refer to them, and you did the same song as them and it came out in the same week. You just be like, well, no one's ever hearing my version ever again.
But, I think that was common years ago, especially in the 60s, where several people released the same song, but their version of it all at the same time.
I mean, it probably was. It's just kind of like, I would be like, well, if you ever probably it's just now, maybe at that time, because they weren't as famous as they are now. But like now, if you were like releasing a song and they told you, oh, Michael Jackson released that song the same week as you'd be like, well, my version's dead in the water. No one's ever hearing it. Might as well just quit now while I'm still.
Yeah, but I'm huge in Philly. It'll be big in Philly. Don't worry.
Okay, John, the one guy who came to my concert. He loves me. John in Philly loves me. You'll never know.
There we are.
Anyway. All right. So I just thought that was interesting. So it was just funny because everybody also wanted to make comments, including BBC Radio 1 was like, well, isn't it ironic your names? And he's like, I know, but I'm not Michael Jackson. Anyway. So the next boy band from that same time is the Osmonds.
Yeah, I suppose they are.
But they played a little bit of instruments too, a little bit.
That's true. And Donny Osmond is still popular to this day and playing casinos in Vegas. And he apparently is a incredibly nice chap if you get to know him.
He's also an amazing, his voice is amazing if you ever hear him sing. He was on The Masked Singer. And I mean, when you don't know, it's Donny Osmond. And he also did a lot of work for Disney. I only found out probably maybe 10 years ago that he sings all of the male parts for the movie Mulan.
Oh,
didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's that you would never, looking at that and hearing the songs, you would never picture Donny Osmond. Not even once. Because, he has a very distinct look. The Osmonds kind of had a sound. Doesn't sound anything like it. But when I saw him on The Masked Singer, it surprised me how good his voice was.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, just given the fact he's such a nice chap, and whenever you hear anything about him, you never hear anything negative about Donny Osmond. It's always like he's super, super professional, and he's a great singer, and he's really cool to work with and stuff like that. It wouldn't surprise me, someone who's like that, who's so easy to work with. Disney's like, well, we'll get Donny Osmond in. He can sing all the parts. He's super cool. Mm-hmm. He always turns up, that kind of stuff.
I mean, yeah. And once again, they're known for having great harmonies. The Osmonds are. But the song I chose is One Bad Apple.
Yeah, that is a classic Osmond song. Now, I would raise your One Bad Apple with Crazy Horses.
I listened to that one while doing research, and I agree with you on that. I was great too. The reason I picked this, though, is it goes in line with something that we just talked about. Da, da, da. So the song was written by George Jackson, who originally had the Jackson 5 in mind when he wrote it. According to Donny Osmond, Michael Jackson later told him the Jackson 5 almost recorded this song first, but they chose to record ABC instead, and he was incredibly grateful because you don't want to record the same song as the Jackson 5. Just like poor Mick Jackson over there.
Yeah, I could hear the Jacksons doing One Bad Apple. It has a Jackson 5 feel about it almost.
Yeah, it really does. And I agree, though, ABC is a better song. I would have went with that as well.
Oh, sure. And ABC has got, did we discuss it before? It's the Wrecking Crew playing the backup on it. I mean, it's the backing track is absolutely superb.
And it is a song that I think universally, I have never met a person who doesn't know that song.
Sure, yeah. I mean, some of the other, like Dancing Machine, I think you'd probably have to be a Jackson 5 fan or have a little bit more knowledge about them to know about Dancing Machine. But yeah, ABC,
it's probably the biggest hit.
It's like Beat It or Thriller or something. It's like most people would know that.
Yeah. So anyway, I just thought it was funny that it all came full circle with the Jacksons recording their songs. All right. So we're going to skip ahead to the 70s and the 80s. We're going to talk about two more bands that me and Tim have mentioned a few times on this show. And the first one is New Edition. Tim is familiar with New Edition.
Yeah, it's a name that I'm certainly very familiar with. I was around at that time when New Edition were editioning. Is that what they were doing? What were their fans called? The Editioners or something? I don't know.
I wasn't born. But the song I chose was Cool It Now, because that's the one I think of when I think of New Edition.
Sure, but how about Candy Girl? That's a classic.
That's the other one I think of too. It's a toss-up, Tim. We could be here all week. So basically, Cool It Now is from 1984. The American group New Edition. It was their first single, and it went number 1 on the charts on September 1st, 1984.
Well, fantastic. Now, as you know, New Edition, or as they are depicted in this particular example, I'm going to give you the New Edition.
True.
They famously appear in a season 4 Knight Rider episode where they perform their amazing, breathtaking song "Count Me Out."
Amazing. Well, now, I mean, there's nothing more someone could do to like prove their level of fame than that, Tim, really.
Well, that's the
like
thing.
The highest level.
They were the only artist in the entire run of Knight Rider that appeared as like a musical group. So,
Weird.
Yes.
I wonder why that is.
Well, it wasn't a thing. I mean, by season 4, they were sort of clutching at straws a little bit, if I'm being honest.
Had to jump the shark.
Yeah, season 4 isn't the best season of Knight Rider, but one of the episode which has them in it is, even as a super fan, I watch it because it's hilariously bad. But
So when would season 4, like what years did season 4 run?
86.
So it's about 2 years after this song came out.
Yeah, and Bobby Brown had left at that point.
Okay, then that makes it worse. Because as much as I'm just going to say, as much as I don't like Bobby Brown as a person, he really did have a good voice for singing.
Sure. And I mean, we've discussed before, Bobby Brown's solo hits, Every Little Breath You Take. I mean, I can't think of any others off the top of my head, but, you know, his solo catalog is great. He even did that song for Ghostbusters 2 on our own.
Separate the artist from the artist. That's all we can do, Tim.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not a good person. He's a terrible person.
He's a terrible person.
But the music, I mean, yeah, if you can fully separate the art from the artist, that's some just great 80s pop music.
My two that I like from him are My Prerogative and Don't Be Cruel. I like both those. I thought they were both good.
Yeah, Don't Be Cruel is a great song. I was just trying to think them off the top of my head because I'm familiar, obviously, with the work of Bobby Brown, but it's not on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, it's not somebody I think about that often. It's just, obviously they were a famous boy band, so they made it into the episode.
Exactly. But I mean, it said, forever immortalized in the greatest television program of all time.
Oh, that alone, guys, that alone. So we are going to enter Tim, the quintessential, the best time for boy bands,
Mm-hmm.
the 1990s. Now, this is the height of all things. And I brought up so I did a little bit of research because there is a distinct difference in boy bands that were super popular in the United States and the UK. I will say that. There was a lot of 90s boy bands in the UK that didn't quite transfer over, but there's two that did. And those are the two that I brought up to Tim, and he knows where this is going. Mm-hmm. And there's two American boy bands that dominated the charts. And you could probably guess those because, there was a rivalry. Just going to say I was Team Backstreet Boys, but we'll start with someone who is not on either of those lists. We're going to start with Boys to Men. Are you familiar with Boys to Men, Tim?
Yeah, the thing is that calling them a boy band, I think it's somewhat controversial, maybe more controversial than the Beatles take, because I see them as a vocal group, as somebody who sings amazing tight harmonies. I don't know if they're known for their synchronized dance moves and all the other shenanigans that goes with it.
They kind of are. Yeah, they dance in their videos, but I don't think when they performed live, they were doing like the hardcore choreography you saw. And I will agree with Tim. Vocally wise, they are probably the best singers on this by and large. Their voices are amazing. But if you look at the definition with the 4-part harmony, the boys, the targeting young females as their category, they do fit the molds. And they probably are like, but the thing I like about Boys to Men is I love their Motown stuff because I'm a Motown person. But what did I say earlier? Technically, if you wanted to get even the Temptations could be viewed as a boy band. Yeah, I mean, it's true.
Yeah, and again, I think the Temptations are more of a vocal group than a boy band.
And that's the way I would see it. But if you look at, they were doing choreography, they did the harmonies, they reached a certain audience. But with that being said, the song I chose is Motown Philly because it's just my favorite Boyz II Men song.
Mm-hmm. I like The End of the Road.
I do too, but I will say, if you are my age or somewhere similar to my age, all of Boyz II Men kind of like became Casey and JoJo in my mind at the same, those artists, Boyz II Men and Casey and JoJo were at every high school dance repeated. And it was always someone dedicating it to their significant other. And it would be a way more dramatic song than any 14-year-old needs to do. And so Boyz II Men and Casey and JoJo, those two never again.
Do you know what? All the time I was at secondary school, which is the equivalent of high school here, we never had dances. We never had anything like that.
I know. I will say, whenever I've seen other people talk like on the internet that are from other countries, the concept of prom and homecoming is mind-boggling to them.
Yeah, I homecoming. Where are they coming home from?
It's just a term. They use it in churches too. So one Sunday of the year is homecoming, and basically people who used to go to that church and who have moved come back and go attend that sermon. But the same thing for homecoming is it's generally like people who graduated, they come back for the game or something like that. Or like in college level homecomings, like that people can even go to the dance. And I'm like, who wants their parents who graduated 20 years ago to show up at the school dance? That's weird to me.
But we never even had school dances. It just didn't exist. There was nothing like that.
I don't know where it came from in American culture then. Like, I don't know why we got stuck on the school dance thing.
And what's with this school spirit business? I've heard Hannah talk about that.
Well, so really, school spirit is it's kind of a play. You talking about Americans and their patriot, like, the big patriot thing too. But I mean, it's sports, football, American football, for those who are listening. American football creates rivalries between teams, and you have like your school has like a mascot, and once a week, that is homecoming week, you do a spirit week and people dress up all week. There's competitions. The worst is the stupid pep rallies they made you sit through. I mean, as a student, I liked it because it got me out of class. But like looking back as an adult, it seems absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, nothing like that happened. And see, like when I went to Lambton School, they had soccer or football, as I would call it. And I think it was the first year I was there. There was a massive fight outside the school between Lambton School and I think Hounslow Manor School. And from there onwards, they banned all sort of sport competition between the school and other schools directly. So that just didn't happen for all the time I was there. I mean, it didn't affect me in the slightest because I didn't like it. But the thought of like some kind of rivalry thing, it was that massive fight sort of just stopped that.
Well, I will say, I guess the equivalent that I could think of in the UK is, and I'm going to call it soccer, and the internet's going to cut for me. That's not in America. Okay, Europe football, I guess that's what I call it. England, whatever, soccer is what I'm going to call it. There are people who are hardcore soccer fans. Think about their kind of like obsession. It's kind of close. Same type thing, I guess.
Sure.
It's not for me, but that's what it is.
No, I'm very much on record saying that I do not like football, soccer, and it's one of the top 5 reasons I left the country. Just saying.
It's literally soccer that drove Tim out. Soccer and taxes. Bye.
Well, top 3 maybe reasons I left.
That's funny. I'm like, oh God, they're going to come for me. But it is hard. I understand that in every other country it is football, but when we have American football, it's kind of hard to refer to them both as the same thing. You know what I mean, Tim?
Sure, that's why here it's called soccer. But I mean, people dally with soccer here when the World Cup happens, but then it kind of evaporates until the World Cup happens again. No one really cares about it here.
All right, so moving along. So we talked about Boys and Men. Now this one kind of bleeds to 80s and 90s, but this would, I'd say, is the first real boy band. Like what me and Tim think of when we think of boy band. New Kids on the Block.
Yes, absolutely. They were huge in the UK as well. I remember being around people when New Kids on the Block was out and it was huge. There was this, I remember being around a friend's house and she had the New Kids on the Block live concert video on. Mm-hmm. And I've recounted this tale with other people and they've said, yeah, I saw that as well. I know what that's all about. I saw that.
Uh-huh. No, my older sister, because see, Stephanie, my older sister, was born in 1983. So she was at the height of New Kids on the Block. It's just a little bit before I would have really got into it. I mean, I know the music now, but I know exactly the concert Tim's talking about. And they were huge. I mean, I didn't even know, you got Jordan Knight, Donnie Wahlberg. Donnie Wahlberg's married to Jenny McCarthy. Like, I know more about their lives than I should. But the song I chose, and the only reason I chose it is Tim's going to know exactly why I chose it. It's You Got It, The Right Stuff.
Yeah, that is an absolute classic. I would have gone myself with Hanging Tough. That's probably my favorite New Kids on the Block song.
So I'm a step by step. But I will say the reason I went with You Got It, The Right Stuff is because I can't hear it anymore without thinking the white stuff. That's all I hear. I literally, when I was doing my research for this, I want everyone to know, I could not sing The Right Stuff. I kept going, the white stuff. That's all I could hear. And I swore I couldn't find evidence of this. So this is, when you think you know something, but it turns out you're completely wrong. Half of our podcast, really. But for me, anyway.
This sounds like something that Charlie sings, and it's just like got into your brain.
Well, there's a version of it, and I thought it was on an Oreo commercial, but it isn't. It's a Weird Al song, The White Stuff.
Yeah.
So Weird Al did a version of it, and it's called The White Stuff. But I swore to myself that there was a legitimate Oreo commercial that used that. Apparently there wasn't. I went down a rabbit hole trying to find the Oreo commercial that doesn't exist, Tim. Doesn't exist.
Do you think it was part of, there was that advertising campaign, Got Milk, with an question mark. Do you think it was maybe part of that?
It could have been, because you have to think, I was one of the Got Milk babies. Like, I remember in my elementary school, primary school, whatever you want to call it, they had like the Got Milk with the cow and everything, like up on the walls, advertising to us every time we ate. Was that an American campaign or was that a universal thing?
It was a US campaign. However, in schools in England, especially primary schools, which you go to from the age of 5 to about 13, they always used to give you milk at break times.
We got it with lunch, and ours was in a bag.
Oh, ours, like what you traditionally think like a UK milk bottle, like a pint of milk with a little silver cap on it.
Yeah.
The milk bottles they used to give you in school, they used to come in fresh every day in a crate. I can even remember them. I can even see it in my brain right now. But they were full of like milk bottles, but they were like tiny little kid-sized ones, and they were probably like a third of a pint or a quarter of a pint, and they had the same little silver cap thing on the top.
Cute. So we had this little square plastic. So apparently in Canada, your milk is in a bag. I learned that recently. But we had these little bags that are about, just probably the size of your hand, and you could get white or chocolate, and sometimes there would be strawberry. And the problem with them, though, is you had to stick the straw in them. And as any kid who's ever used a Capri Sun, what happens, Tim?
Well, you put the straw in, it comes through the other side.
It would happen with your milk occasionally
and then
when you were in
milk would
elementary
just
school.
Everywhere.
It was, yeah, we had to work very hard. Now, as I got older, and I think when I was in like high school and stuff, we had just regular like little, the cardboard ones or whatever that you open like everything else. But I do remember the bags very well. I only spilled one all over myself once, but I called my parents and made them take me home because I didn't want to walk around with milk on me all day.
That's the problem, is that milk stinks.
Nobody wants to walk around with milk on them all day. That's just not something you want.
No, I don't drink milk anymore, but there you go.
I literally can't even tell you what milk tastes like. It's been so long.
Well, I have almond milk and like soya milk and all that kind of stuff, but
I do that. But...
During my time of trying to reduce my cholesterol, I cut regular milk out, so I haven't had it for such a long time.
I was never a big fan of just drinking milk in general. It just wasn't like my thing. I prefer water, but I just at some point I'll get oat milk or I'll get almond milk in my coffee, and that is the extent of what milk I can't even, and those don't taste, you know what I mean, like regular milk. It has been so long since I've had regular milk. I don't remember what it tastes like. Couldn't tell you.
I think I can remember the taste. It's whatever. I'm happy with my oat, almond, soy, hazelnut.
Fair enough. All right. So this is a band that I specifically picked for Tim. It is a band that I know he has strong feelings about it. There's a little thing I'm going to throw in here. It is Take That.
Take That.
He loves one of the members of Take That, the initials with RW.
Yeah, I have long not enjoyed the musical output of Mr. Robbie Williams. I've gone on record many times saying that I don't enjoy his music. With the sands of time past, I don't quite have the same visceral reaction to that name that I had maybe 20 years ago. But I don't know. It's my problem with him, I suppose, now is that he was a breakout star of Take That. Well, mind you, who was the other guy that came out of Take That? And it wasn't Jason Orange. It was Gary Barlow.
Okay, sure.
He was the other guy who came out of Take That. And he is an incredibly talented singer and songwriter. He has written songs for lots of other acts. He's produced music. He's had a huge career in the music industry. The problem I have with Robbie Williams is the breakout star that he was he was made out to be like this kind of rock guy. And he was just like a not terribly great singer that came out of a band that had a look that was very popular. And
so
go
ahead. I'm sorry,
I was going to say, and people liked him, but I don't know, I just didn't get it. And it's like, this is not good rock music.
This is okay, so it's amazing Tim said that, because this is what I was going to get into. And I have a very specific thing I'm going to talk about that relates to Robbie Williams' rock career. We say rock in quote. Very loosely. So the song, Tim already knows because I've been singing it since he got on the thing, is Back for Good. And the reason I chose that is that was their big hit in America. Like, that is the one song that if any American was like, Take That, that would be the first one we would know. And it still plays on the radio here a lot. Like, it's just one of those songs. Other ones I wouldn't know that well, but basically that song came out in 1995 by lead singer Gary Barlow, which I will say I like his voice. It was also produced by Chris Porter. It topped the UK charts, as well as 31 other countries, and reaching the top 10, including America, making it their only major hit in the country. It won a Brit Award and a bunch of other awards and blah, blah. So anyway, the reason, though, that I wanted to bring it up, and the reason that I loved Tim said that, was in an effort to mock his boy band roots, group member turned solo artist Robbie Williams performed a hard rock version of that song in the style of the Sex Pistols, which was on the B side of his album Angels. Williams performed this arrangement of the song with Mark Owen as an encore at his record-breaking Nebworth? Park? Yeah, that one that Tim says all the time. Concerts and events version of Take That. So here's my problem, and here's why it would probably annoy me. It feels like you're making fun of your own past, and you're making fun of your band members to do that. Like, he's mocking it on purpose.
Yeah, because, that's your musical heritage. I mean, you wouldn't be playing a big gig at Nebworth had it not been you dancing about with Take That. So you have to own it. It's like, yeah, I did that. Yeah, but I do different things now. But to mock it, it just doesn't seem genuine. And I think that's why he never made it in the United States. In the UK and much of Europe, and I think even in Canada, he's pretty much a household name, or was a household name. But here in the United States, he just didn't crack the market. And that kind of cheeky, chappy persona, I just don't think works with the US market.
Yeah, I don't think it would have went well here. Because my thing is first of all, we talk about this as one of your major hits. It's the only one that broke in America. And actually, I'm going to say it's the only song that I listened to from them that I liked. Oh. And that's the one you choose to make fun of. It wasn't even that bad of a song. Now, what? The best part about my research to Take That, though, is, Tim, what video did I send you to listen to before we started this episode?
Oh, goodness me. That
Their version of the Bee Gees.
How Deep Is Your Love?
God.
I was just bringing it back up. I wasn't going to play it with the audio because that video, I would actually recommend. Yeah, I'm looking at the screen grab now. Mm-hmm. I would recommend you seek this out. This video is bizarre.
It's very weird.
So you have the members of Take That, and I think this is post Robbie Williams Take That, because I think there's 44 of them in the video, and they're all in the basement. They're all tied up and gagged. And this attractive lady comes out. She's slightly older, but she's attractive. And she's toying with their hair and touching their face.
It's like she kidnapped them.
Yeah, it's a complete kidnapping situation. And this goes on for a while. And then they're in the back of a van, but again, kidnapped.
The weirder part is that they're doing that to the song, How Deep Is Your Love? It doesn't match at all.
Well, I suppose it's playing to the idea of that the person who kidnapped them is in love with them, and the only way that she can have those people is by tying them up in their basement. I don't know. It's
a weird. And I will say, I personally, that is one of my favorite songs from the Bee Gees, and their harmonies on it. No, it's a no from me. It was an absolute no. I'm sorry, Take That. That was no.
No, it's not the best version of that song at all. And the other thing that's not good about it, it doesn't do anything new. It's not like a new version. They didn't reinvent the song. They didn't go with a dance beat. They didn't go with, I don't know, a different tempo or anything. It's more or less an exact cover, but it doesn't create anything new. It doesn't exceed the original either.
And I guess if you want to get into it, some people may view the Bee Gees as a boy band, really, if we're going there. But with that being said, the Bee Gees have some of the best harmonies ever, Tim. I'm talking you can't. And like I said, I burnt myself out on the Bee Gees. My mom made me listen to them too much as a kid, but Mom's going to kill me for saying that. She swears. She's like, I didn't hold a gun to your head, but every time I listen to your podcast, Joy. Sorry, Mom. But anyway, my mom loves the Bee Gees. I listened to them a lot as a kid. I do like the Bee Gees, and their harmonies and the sounds of their voice are so superb that when I heard the harmony part come on, I literally laughed because I was like, no one should do this. This is I'm sorry. And it's not to insult the members or take that. It's a very hard song to do well to begin with. And like Tim said, they didn't add anything to it. And it's not as good.
No,
with the weird music video.
Yeah, the music video is a bit that ruins it for me completely.
Yeah, I was looking at it, I'm like, why is she in the basement? Like, what is happening? And Charlie, my husband, was sitting up here when I was doing research, and I just started cackling, laughing, because I was like, there's no way. Because I'm scrolling through the Take That songs. I was like, oh, I know that one. And then I clicked on it. I was like, yeah, okay, I know that song. And then I saw How Deep Is Your Love, and I was like, there's no way. That's got to be a different song. And I clicked at it, and then I see the lady coming down into the basement, and they're all lined up, and then he starts singing, and I was like, oh, that can't be for real. I mean, tears, Tim. I laughed so hard there were tears. Highly suggest you guys listen to it.
Yeah. Go to watch the video because it is absurd.
It was so weird. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. All right. So we are going to go into my personal, what I think, Tim, is the greatest boy band of all time. And that is the Backstreet Boys.
Yay! Backstreet's back. All right.
Which, for those who don't know, we have Nick Carter, Howie, AJ, Ryan Littrell. I don't know why I didn't give Howie and AJ last names, Kevin. And they were formed by none other than Lou Pearlman, which is a very controversial name nowadays. But anyway, the song I chose, because I had to go back and forth. I went with We've Got It Going On, because I love that one, which was in 1995. And the reason I chose it, Tim, it was produced in Stockholm by Max Martin and Dance Pop, the one we talked about in the Sweden episode as the king of every pop song you've ever heard since the beginning of time.
Was it recorded in Polar Studios?
It was. And they recorded it directly before they recorded. And Max Martin said, that was great. And you know what he pulled right out of his cabinet? Quit Playing Games with My Heart, and they recorded that directly next. Two of their major hits. Well,
would you look at that? And as for people who don't know, Polar Studios is a studio complex owned by ABBA.
That makes sense. Yeah, for those who haven't listened to our Swedish pop episode, there is a whole weird, I don't know if it's I don't want to call it weird. There's just a known thing in the pop world where great pop music seems to come out of Sweden.
Well, there we are. And to honor that, I'd like to give an update and say I'm still doing Duolingo Swedish.
I am doing Duolingo French, so I need to add you, Tim. It didn't show up as a friend. I need to do that.
How many days streak do you have?
I'm at a 14-day streak at the moment.
37 days.
I had a really good one, and then I may have fell off the Duolingo truck, and then the little bird started yelling at me to come back, so I came back.
There we go. Well, the thing is, if you forget to do it gets to like 6 or 7 o'clock and you get an email, and then you get like a pop-up message, and then it starts bleeping at you. You can't avoid it. And thus far, I've been very pleased with my progress. I actually remember more from my Swedish days than I thought.
And it is I will say, if it's your first time into the language, it might be a little hard, but since I took French for years, it's a great way as a refresher for me personally. Like Tim saying, you start remembering things you didn't even know you knew.
Yeah, because I used to travel to Sweden and stay there and meet Swedish people and stuff like that. So it really has. Well, and
you're the fifth, whatever member of ABBA. I mean, you're basically Swedish pop royalty, Tim.
Well, I mean, effectively.
Like Varsågod, tack så mycket. Somebody out there is going, wow.
Jättebra.
Right. Tim is actually the 7th member of ABBA twice removed, in case anybody was wondering.
You haven't got to the numbers yet. I think I can remember. It's 4, 3, 4, 5. I think that might be German. I don't know.
I remember all the way up until once you get past the 30s in French, they start doing where you have to add, and then you take you say the number, and then it's subtract 1. You say and I'm like, nope. If I have to do math on top of knowing the numbers, I'm never using it.
Mannen äter kyckling. The man ate chicken. See, I can do this.
Tim's just, the vocabulary on this one.
Oh, it's so useful because if you ever go to Sweden, almost everyone in the country speaks perfect English. So
I know we had that whole conversation. And what's weird is when I watched that documentary and then did the Swedish pop episode, when I was watching it, I was like, they don't even have accents. Not really. Like their English was so good that there wasn't an accent.
People are taught English from like pre-primary school, and it is so widely spoken. And in some countries you go to, some like France, for example, a lot of people can speak really good English, but they prefer not to, and are a little insulted if you just speak English at them. The Swedes and Scandinavians in general, they can't wait to speak proper English to a native English speaker. So it's not a problem. You roll up into any place and say, "Hey, how you doing? Oh, you're from England. Hey, nice to talk to you." Blah 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 blah.
So here's one of my French stories. So I remember I went into a Subway. Yes, like the Subway sandwich restaurant. This one I still ate meat, and I was much younger. But the only thing I knew how to order was a ham and cheese. So I was like, jambon et fromage. And the only bread I could order was white, Le Blanc. And I remember the French person looking at me like, could you just point like every other? I was like, oh. And then one time I remember I ordered pizza because pizza is just a pizza. And then the other thing was steak frites because those were the words. So that's what I ate the entire time I was in France because I knew those words. But Tim's right. They know you're American from a mile away. We know this. It's a known thing. I know we're louder. We stand close. There's all these different stereotypes, whatever. But Tim's right. In France, they're kind of like, they don't really like speaking English unless they have to because there's that whole francophone culture they have.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about it is I always used to hate, especially in Canada, they were a little nicer about it because, they speak more English like when I was in Quebec. But I always hated, I would try to use my French and then they would start talking back to me in English. And so it made it really hard for me to actually learn anything because my French was so bad. They're like, we're just going to speak in English. Anyway, this isn't a language podcast. All right. Speaking of the Backstreet Boys, I was correct. They have sold over 100 million records worldwide, making them the best-selling boy band of all time and one of the world's best-selling artists.
Well, would you look at that?
And they're the first group since Led Zeppelin to have their first 10 albums reach the top 10 in the Billboard 200.
Well, would you look at that? They are music pioneers.
Tim's like, I don't know what else to say. So, Tim, if you had to pick a boy band between Backstreet Boys and you know where the other one's going, NSYNC, who are you? What's your team?
I would probably say Backstreet Boys because I'm not super familiar with the work of NSYNC.
He just said that because he didn't want me to argue with him, everyone.
It's the truth. Right. It's the honest truth.
So going into that, we're going into the other band that everyone knows that we just said, NSYNC, which I would say at this point, I think Justin Timberlake's much larger than NSYNC as a whole. But anyway, so the song I picked, though, and there's a reason I picked it. I'm curious to know if Tim knows this song. It won one of the greatest awards of the time, which was a Teen Choice Awards, of course.
Mm-hmm.
It's Pop. Do you know the song? It's just Pop. The dirty pop. Can't stop. You know, I like that dirty pop. Have you ever heard that song?
I don't think I ever have.
He just wanted me to sing it. No, I'm kidding. So the reason I picked that one is it's one that I love from NSYNC. And it's a play on everybody blasting them about being pop artists, right? You know, the cliche pop artist this, which I get. I kind of find it annoying when you get into that whole thing because pop just means the popular music of the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you like what you like and you don't have to justify it. And if you like pop music, you like pop music. But the funny part is they did an MTV broadcast recording live of Pop, and it was worldwide, NSYNC did. And that's how they announced their tour, Pop Odyssey. But the funny thing is they actually put everything in the song. This is what Justin Timberlake was quoted as saying, put everything in the song that is not considered pop music, to be ironic.
Well, there you go.
But it sounds like pop music if you listen to it. So I don't exactly know what he's talking about. Another great song, though, about pop, just so everybody knows, it's not related to anything. Have you ever heard the Soda Pop song by Britney Spears? I think I made you listen to it.
Yeah, it's one you've made me listen to.
Great pop song as well. Anyway, all right. So another band that we're going to get into that I may have sent Tim already once is Westlife.
Mm-hmm. They were known in the UK as Pond Life.
Why? Why are they known as Pond Life? Oh, because like the Pond West.
No, because
like it's the West. It's like if you go west enough, you're at a pond. I don't understand.
No, it's just like they weren't that good. So it's Westlife, Pond Life.
I am trying to think. Okay, if I go west in England, do I end up at a pond? Why are they not? Never gonna live that one down. It's literally what I was thinking. I was like, is there a pond? I was like, well, they call the ocean pond.
Joy, it's a rudimentary insult.
Well, it went right past me. Anyway, okay, so I will say they weren't very popular in America. I've never heard one of their songs ever played on the radio, but they did come up while I was doing my research as one of the. So basically, they are the Guinness World Book record holders, the first to achieve 7 consecutive #1 singles in the UK.
Interesting. I mean, it's a name that I remember, but I don't remember there being that much of them.
And they also apparently have the most public appearance in 36 hours by a pop group. So they appeared publicly the most out of anybody else in 36 hours.
I mean, I would say there was another similar band around at the time called Boyzone.
Mm-hmm. And
Boyzone, I thought, were significantly more popular than Westlife.
And what's interesting is they didn't come up at all when I was looking at like the history of boy bands.
Because the singer from Boyzone was Ronan Keating, and he had a breakout career. Maybe my memory of this is tainted by the fact my friend Linda Dobson used to love Boyzone and she loved Ronan Keating. So maybe it was completely tainted by that.
Maybe it just didn't make it into my research. But anyway, what I picked though was another song with a video that if you have not seen it, you need to see it. I found out Westlife did a version of Uptown Girl.
Yeah, again, it doesn't add anything.
And what's weird to me, so apparently they're Irish. Found out they were Irish when I did my research, the members of the band. What was weird to me when you watched it is it's a play on, so for those who don't know Uptown Girl, the song by Billy Joel, that it's like they're in like a 1950s diner.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'm like, why are the Irish guys in like a 1950s diner? And then it kind of felt like maybe it was the Billy Joel doo-wop thing that they were going for. Maybe that's what they were trying to hit at, but they didn't really do any doo-wop in it at all. And it just looked very out of place.
Yeah, that sounds like the director of the video says, "Oh, okay, we're going to put you in a diner." And okay, all right, that's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. And it just like, it keeps flashing different ones. And they're very clichély dressed in 1950 diners clothes too. And the hair and everything. And Tim's right. It's the exact same thing as the other song we were talking about. They didn't change anything about it. They didn't add anything to it. It's just the same song.
But yeah, I think to some degree, a lot of these boy bands are just a license to print money, and whatever the songs that they were releasing are almost irrelevant because their target audience would buy their merchandise, buy their concert tickets, and buy their albums. Mm-hmm. So to some degree, unless it was horrifically bad, it would sell anyway, just because they were what they were. Like you say, it's appealing to a certain demographic, and they're 4 or 5 attractive people doing their synchronized dance moves. And the product that they create, to some degree, is not even important.
Well, and then this is the height of that 90s we talked about on the Spice Girls episode. We hinted at with the Backstreet Boys. Merchandising was everything. Merchandising with these bands was everything, right? They sold to me. I'm the kind of person they were selling to. And we loved it. You know, we wanted the Backstreet Boys dolls. We wanted the posters on our wall. We wanted all of that. And Tim's right. They probably literally could have sang about a shoe. And I probably would have enjoyed it because it was the Backstreet Boys. It is what it is. But anyway, if you've never seen that one, please go look it up. I didn't know it existed until right before we did this episode. I did pick a song that this is the only song that I know from them and the only song I've ever heard on an American chart by them. And it's When You Are Looking Like That. And It's the only one I've ever heard. One thing I will say, and maybe this is, I don't know, maybe it's sacrilege or something, but a lot of the UK boy bands versus the American boy bands, when I was listening to their music, there seemed much more melancholy. I don't know why.
Yeah, I think you're right. It was more laid back, I suppose.
I mean, that's what they were going for. Whereas the American boy bands are like up there doing aerobics the entire time, like full full choreographed numbers, and it sounds like Pump Up the Jam on repeat. But anyway, all right. I'm just going to hit at two more things that we can call this an episode, but I have to mention this. And the only reason I have to mention it is because I haven't paid attention. I love this song, but I hadn't paid attention to the song lyrics in years. Are you familiar with the band LFO, Tim?
No.
They have a song called Summer Girls. It was really popular right around 2000. So I was about 10 years old. And I love this song, but the lyrics in it, I'm just going to read you some, Tim. I just want you to hear the lyrical genius. And then as an adult, I still love it. Yes, I'm typing, guys, and bringing up the lyrics. I have to read them to Tim so he gets the full effect. Okay. New Kids on the Block had a bunch of hits. Chinese food makes me sick, but I think it's fly when girls stop by for the summer. I like girls that wear Abercrombie and Fitch. I'd take her if I had one wish, but she's been gone since that summer. Nothing like rhyming summer with summer. This is my favorite line. Hip hop marmalade, spick and span. And as a kid, I thought it was creative genius, Tim. This was the height of lyricism to me.
Freddie Mercury sings, Scaramouche, Scaramouche, will you do the fandango?
It's true. I thought that too.
David Lee Roth sings, I want to be your knight in shining pickup truck. And this band sings.
Met you one summer and all began. You're the best girl that I ever did see. The great Larry Bird, Jersey 33. What does basketball have to do with any of that? When you take a sip, you buzz like a hornet. Bill, and this is my favorite though, Tim. This is the best line of the song. Billy Shakespeare wrote a whole bunch of sonnets.
Billy
Shakespeare.
Oh, goodness me.
And then it goes, call me Willie Whistle because I can't speak. I can't. I still love it. I know every one of these lyrics. I sing it every time it comes on. But if you actually took it and broke it down piece by piece. We literally made fun of that Kid Rock song where he rhymes summer and summer. Or maybe it's all night long and all night long. They did that like 7 times in this song.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not lyrical genius, is it?
I just wanted to see Tim's face if I read that. All right. One more band from one of the most prolific people, I think, out there when it comes to merchandising and producing, Mr. Simon Cowell.
Mm-hmm.
It is Five.
Yeah. Now, Five, to their credit, well, maybe not to their credit, and probably more to Simon Cowell or their manager's credit,
yeah,
is that they were basically responsible for the rebirth of Queen as we know it now. They did a cover of We Will Rock You, which is poor, if I'm being honest, but it has Brian May and Roger Taylor on it. And Five were at the Brit Awards, I believe it was, and they were doing this We Will Rock You song, and it was a big surprise, and the stage opens up, Brian May and Roger Taylor come out. And that was the birth of the Queen Plus idea. Queen plus Paul Rogers, Queen plus Adam Lambert, Queen plus whoever in that capacity. Of course, John Deacon is no longer involved with it, but all of your modern Queen that you know now, they're out there touring, they're playing, and they're releasing live albums, all that stuff, all comes from this collaboration with Five.
Yeah, so it's weird you say that because I know who they were. They were probably more popular in America than Westlife, but I was clicking through songs and I found this song, and I will say it was poor. I didn't care for it, but it's called Everybody Get Up. And it samples Joan Jett's I Love Rock and Roll at the beginning. And in the video, they're like in a school auditorium type thing. And there's a bunch of people sitting around. And I heard the beginning riffs that I was like, wait a second. It caught my attention because it's I Love Rock and Roll, which given is a song that I don't care to listen to anymore because I've heard it about 1,000 million bajillion times, but it's still Joan Jett. And I was like, huh. And then that went into the song about Everybody Get Up, which was actually not very good at all. But throughout the song, it samples that.
Oh, wow. Do you know, I think I remember that when that was out. Well, what year was that?
1998.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
But it was also produced by Dins Pop, one of our Swedish people.
There we are. As we know, all pop music comes back to Sweden.
All right. And since we are taking this full circle, here is the final band, Tim. Band that Tim is not going to know. Or if he does, well, he probably knows who they are, but he's probably not going to know one song from them. Have you heard of One Direction, Tim?
I have heard of the band One Direction. I do not know a single song by One Direction.
So One Direction is a much more modern, and I say modern like it happened yesterday. That actually is like 2011. But in terms of what we talk about on this podcast, it's much more modern. So the only song I really knew from them is What Makes You Beautiful. And a lot of people talked about it because it really was one of the very first more modern pop bands that fall in line with what we knew of older pop bands. And there's a part in it in the middle eighth where it goes, na, 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 na. It's got like a na, na, na hook, which I thought was very interesting because that plays into kind of like what you know. And so, and when they perform it live, you know, it's like an anthem for everybody to kind of sing that part. And we've talked about anthem songs are always great. And that was their first like, and it's got like a guitar riff that goes with it that's really cool too. And so that was their debut single, and that is what made their debut album, and that is what kind of made them popular was this song. Now, I think some of them are Irish and some of them are English. They've all split up now. You know, it was the breakup of the century when they broke up for a lot of girls. But Harry Styles and Liam and all of them. Harry Styles is pretty popular still to this day. He actually does music all the time. He's quite a good musician. I don't know any of the other ones' names. Sorry for those who are One Direction fans. Those are the only two I know. But I would say they are probably the closest until we get into the K-pop world, which me and Tim talked about, of a modern day boy band.
Well, there we go. What a comprehensive wrap-up of the boy band world, from Beatles to K-pop, One Direction, and back again.
And, you know, Billy Shakespeare wrote a whole bunch of songs.
Billy Shakespeare.
That line. And then, hold on. Let me see. Let me see if there's a great one here that I can leave it on that I didn't say in the opening. I can't even say this. Seriously. I'll steal your honey like I stole your bike. Google shrimp and pogo stick. My mind takes me back there oh so quick. That's what I'll leave you with, Tim.
Literal poetry. Do you have anything to leave the people with?
Just that. All right. Anything, Tim? Besides be kind.
Be kind.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
To find me out for another day to love.